This guitar is a K-made old Craftsman. I believe the model is a K1. I believe it's from the 50s or maybe very early 60s. This was actually sold to me fairly recently in the last couple of years. The guitar itself, from a guy named Wade Kofer, who's an amazing luthier, amazing guitar player, maybe the best guitar player I've ever had in my band. He's built me a guitar, he works on all my stuff, but I've been telling him I had this pickup for over 30 years. And it says Shield on it. DeArmond was an electronics company. DeArmond Rowe, they had all the pickups and all the cool silver tones and stuff. They made all that, and they made this guitar when archtop guitars were in fashion for orchestras and things like that, and they were the primary type of guitar. If you were a sophisticated guitar player playing in a combo in a band or a dance band and playing, that kind of stuff. Electricity came to town, amplifiers came to town, and they wanted to electrify these things without having to alter them. DeArmond made this thing called the Rhythm Chief, and it got named the Monkey on a Stick pickup because of a archaic toy or something like that where you wound a thing and it would go up, the monkey would go to the top of the stick and flip over, with a rubber band wooden toe, and the rod that you'd move the pickup up and down depending on where it fit and what sounded best. Well, this, I believe, is a Japanese copy of that thing, and there's a company called Olson Electronics, and they had 7 locations near Akron, Ohio. I think they were a national chain. They were like before Radio Shack, but they were one of the first to import Japanese electronics, Japanese instruments. Well, I shouldn't say instruments. There's definitely electrical components and also pickups and things like that, parts for musical instruments and for amplifiers and amplifier kits and things like that. I don't know if they sold actual instruments, but they were Radio Shack. If you needed a resistor or tubes for your television, you went to Olson. There was one, within usually 40, 50 miles of anywhere in the Midwest. I've seen these, and I've recently discovered one branded Olson, but I've never seen one branded Shield. And I bought this pickup from Tom Humphreys in Akron, Ohio, like I said, 30, maybe 35 years ago, who owned Ross Music, which was one of the old music stores in Akron. Tom started working there the day after high school until, I guess he was in his 60s when it closed. So.
Do you remember how much you paid for the pickup?
Oh, I doubt I paid $40 for it. And I really need it because I was playing acoustic blues and country blues, things like that, but I was starting to play bars and needed something a little bit louder, and I was playing on this archtop harmony. I'm like, really need something like an archtop pickup, and I was really into Elmore James, and I was really into Lightnin' Hopkins, and I saw this picture of Elmore James and this picture of Big Joe Williams. They had that sort of rhythm just jammed in and there, and I'm like, this is the most amazing sound I've ever heard, because it isn't like a rock electric guitar, and it's not an acoustic guitar. It's this other thing that just sounds so primal and neat. And I was like, I really want that sound. Tom's like, I think I got something. Give me a week or two. And then, a week or two, because it's just one of the, it was before the internet, so, we'd go hang out places when there was to do something, so just hanging out at the music store. No money. I mean, I never even expected to buy anything. You might, get some picks maybe, just, what's up, man? So anyway, Tom Humphreys, one of the many cool Gregs in my life, gave me this thing, and I'm sure it wasn't $50. It was probably $40, and he probably looked up what a Rhythm Chief cost. And so whether this thing had been sitting in a box in a drawer from Ross Music when they came out and they got a bunch from Olson Electronics down the road, or it came in on something or came in or something, like, I have no idea of like where, but I could never find anything about it. Well, I put this on, and it really did have that Elmore James sound. It's a really, really microphonic pickup, and I'm a finger style player. I always use a metal finger pick and thumb pick, and I could really hear the tone of that, which I felt was a real important part of that early sound. Even some of the early Muddy records where he's playing an arch chop, that he's using a de-armand Rhythm Chief. And just a lot of that era, like those transitional guys, the guys who were playing music and went from acoustic to electric, and they all went as soon as they could. I mean, the minute they could, they did. Every single one of them that remained, a musician that was any sort of commerce, There's a lot of Piedmont guys that, that kind of stuck, like that stuck with the acoustic thing. Gary Davis did it, because he was a street singer, I was pretty sure that was primarily his income, so he couldn't be hauling an amp around, and there wasn't, But the guys of that transitional generation, this pickup really, really caught it. Well, eventually that harmony just wore out. I've still got it hanging in my music room, but it just is not really a playable instrument, and it's not. You can dink on it for a little bit, but the wood's starting to shrink, so you gotta, the fret ends will really tear up your hand, because it's a press board thing. The body's cracked a lot, where I was playing Son House tunes and doing his technique, and then missed. So it's a nice crack. So I've got a bunch of glue and tape up under that, and like, which is authentic, but again, it's just not a great instrument. It doesn't, really struggle with the intonation. So I've been looking for a decent arch top. Everything's $1,000 now. These guitars that no one wants, no one's playing. No one wants to go out on a gig and play a guitar without a round hole in it. There's some beautiful, old Gibsons, things like that. But as many as Gibsons are, there were thousands and thousands of these, that really aren't that great at guitars. Some of them are cool, like all of it, where there's, but even like some Japanese ones are cool, and some are kind of weird. You got to sink, another $300 into when you get it. And that's usually the thing of like, whatever you get, you're going to sink another couple $100 into it to get it right and to be a playable instrument. And I'd been looking around, and it was my birthday a couple years ago, and I'm like, you know what, man, I want one. I want, why am I? I'm like, I got $700. That's it. I'm not paying $1,000 for this PO, unless it says, Gibson on top of it. I'm like, it's not, I know what this, I'm going to let the market dictate. And man, everything I saw, I was like, there were so many, and there were a couple really close ones, but they needed neck resets. And so the string spacing between, and we can see that on camera, there has to be a pretty decent amount of clearance here for this to work. I'm so glad that I had the pickup with me and didn't just, because I think if I would have already blown it, I'm like, I've got too big an ego to go return a guitar.
But you needed to make sure that
but I had to make sure that it fit. My friend Wade called me up. He's like, hey man, are you still looking for an arch top? I'm like, absolutely. And I was just about to pull the trigger on one that I wasn't quite sure. Like, it's going to be close. I measured it, I'm going to go back there with the pickup. And he's like, you should come over. Check this out. And he was teaching at the Luthery School wherever that is, here in Nashville, and had this guitar, obviously Sans pickup, which I have, baling wired to this thing, and it intonated, pretty much all the way to here, but I'm not really rocking down there too much, especially on this thing, and it had that thing where sort of every note is as loud as itself, or as loud as the one next to it. So that's.
And you've got some big flat wounds on that.
Yeah, big. That was the thing of 13 to 56, I think, like that. So like a bluegrass type gauge, but that's what those guys played, and it really speaks to it, and it's the right scale length. I'm like, this is the one, man. How much? $350. Almost tore my pants trying to get the money out of my pocket. I was just like there. I'm just, fist pumping. I'm just like, yes, it's finally happened. I waited and it paid off. That I went full George Costanza, just self, the hubris. So Wade calls me up, and I run over to his shop, tells me the price. I'm like there, and he said, "Well, where did this thing come from? Why is it?" And he said, "Well, it was a shop guitar. It was hanging around. Buddy who brought it in, he's selling it. They were making it for this homeless guy that was sort of banging out tunes on the corner near the Lutheran school, right near there. And they said, I'm sure it was, he picked that spot because it was the Lutheran school, and it wasn't like he was any sort of, great artist or anything like that. So, I guess he could see my trepidation, I don't want to take a homeless guy's guitar. Karmically, there's no way I could live through that. So he said, but he always had, a real beater guitar. So we thought, we'll put it together. We'll make it, something the guys to learn on. And he said, by the time we got it all together, he was gone and he never came back. And we sort of waited around for a few months to see if we'd see him or if anyone else would see him around town, and nobody saw him. So now you got it. So I play on my primary instrument in the Tiger Beats is a guitar they couldn't give away to a homeless man. And it became the number one for my band, the Tiger Beats, which is, to your listeners, the Tiger Beats is a side project of mine. We play every Monday in East Nashville at the 5 spot from 6 to 8. It's me, a young guitar player, which you'll soon be hearing lots about, named McKinley James. His father, Jason Smay, on drums, who I truly believe is the best shuffle drummer in the world. And Ted Pecchio.
He's a monster, man.
He is a monster. There. And he doesn't play other kinds of stuff. That's it. You'd be like, hey, man, we got this, petty gig that we're doing coming up. And he's like, I can't do any of that, Just brings a tear to my eye because I am also, limited. He can do anything he wants, but it's he just no, this is my thing. This is what I want to be. Fully formed. Anyway, and Ted Pecchio on bass, who's one of my oldest, dearest friends and a monster bass player. And him and I really cut our teeth playing together back in Ohio decades ago.
If you guys are coming to Nashville, try to come on a Monday. It's a great night music. You can start out at the 5 spot with the Tiger Beats and head over to the Underdog, catch Guthrie Trap. And then head over to 3rd and Lindsley, catch the Time Jumpers, my buddy Andy Reese, and you will get 3 very distinct flavors of great music and great guitar playing.
Then you can hit Joshua Headley's gig at Roberts. If you can brave Broadway, and Monday will be the easiest it'll be to get down there. If you can really put it in.
That's true, man.
It really is true. And then, Joshua, one of the best country singers in Nashville.
cousin and I used to go to the basement of Thompson's Music on the east side of Indianapolis and ask a really cool guy named Greg if he'd tell us the difference between a Telecaster and a Stratocaster. I would have kicked that kid out of there, but he was just so cool and would put up with us.
But that's the thing, you had to have a cool guy named Greg to know anything. There wasn't a Greg in your town, man, you might not ever find your way. So I was lucky to have a lot of Gregs in my life, and I think that should be the term. I think you should really establish, the lexicon of like, we need a Greg, man. Like that town needs a Greg. Gregless child, lost, never given any direction. You need a cool Greg,